You know what, Ryan? It's TV. Does not matter.
You say that, but art fills a certain place in all of our hearts.
Yeah. I wouldn't say The Amazing Race is art. It's definitely entertainment. I don't think it's art. I enjoy it, but I don't think it's that.
Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 53.
Everyone has things they are passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can just get one more person
to join us on our hill to die on. Our school changed semesters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had known this was a kind of a problem in the grading software that I'm developing. But there is a problem for the principals and the registrar and people who are able to see grades for a whole class of students, where I knew that if you didn't teach a course in the term, that view wouldn't even show up. So we've been able to get around it by assigning the principal a course, but that's just silly. And I knew that that problem existed and I wanted to figure out a way around it. But it came to a head when we changed semesters and we had to move that class forward. And also, I thought I had set it up where the principal could go back and see last semester, but apparently that code didn't work. So right when the semester changed and she was still trying to answer kids' questions about the previous semester, she couldn't go see the grades. So that was causing some headaches for our principal. So I knew that this was a problem. So that next weekend I sat down and no, I got to rewrite this whole system. And I definitely came up with a much better way to do it. There are still some things I need to work on. But now there is a much better interface for the principal, the registrar, guidance counselors, whoever the school picks as somebody who can see grades for a whole class of students. I mean, it all boiled down to the problem where I was trying to mix the ability to see whole classes worth of grades with the classes that you're teaching now. And that was the fatal flaw. I knew that there was a problem there when I first created it, but I didn't know how out of hand it was going to get. Like, oh, now we have to make a class for a person so that they have stuff to show up. And I was like, oh, that's not what we want to do. So yeah, I was able to figure out a way to do it differently, basically by separating it out. Have its own area where, oh, you get to see classes of kids? Here's all the classes of kids you can see. And, it was disappointing that the problem came to a head quicker than I was hoping it was going to. I think that's where I'm disappointed.
You were hoping to kick that one down the line a little bit further.
Exactly. I was hoping to have to not fix that right away, but it's like, okay, nope, I have to be fixing it this weekend. Everything else has to be put aside, fixing that code now. But I do like it. There are a few more little things I have to finish, but just a few more things I can smooth out. As of right now, it's working. What I'm really trying to do is make it so that code I write can last a long time. So yeah, when I saw that this was going to be a problem, I was like, I'll have to fix it because I will want the code to last a long time. And right now it's not. So it was good to be forced to fix that one. I probably would have kicked it too far down the road and not fixed it soon enough still. So I'm glad it happened even at this stage.
I know that it looks pretty good from my end, but then again, I don't interact with that data very often.
You're feeling healthy?
Outside of my shoulder being absolutely messed up, yes, I'm feeling mostly healthy.
I had a Ryan moment today.
Wait, this is not a thing. You can't call it a Ryan moment.
I almost convinced myself I was sick. I think that's a Ryan moment.
Dealing with health anxiety does not make it a Ryan moment.
Okay. We found out that one of our colleagues at school has COVID. I mean, our school has gotten hit a little bit recently with Omicron. And I found out that one of the colleagues had it. And he graciously said to me that if you're not feeling any pain now, you don't have it. So that's why I was checking with you. So Ryan, let me tell you right now, you don't have it. And I've already gone through the anxiety, Ryan, so you don't have it either.
Well, all of my problems right now have nothing to do with the respiratory system.
Mm-hmm. So he told me that I didn't have it because if I had it, I would have already had symptoms. So I was like, okay, good. But I tell you, the next hour, I convinced myself I had a fever until I got home because we were out food shopping, until I got home from the grocery store.
That is a Ryan thing to do.
And then I took my temperature and I'm like, oh, I'm 35.8. Yeah, I don't have a fever. I am fine. I had pretty well convinced myself I had a fever. I don't And I'm like, why am I trying to convince myself I have a fever?
Because you're pulling a Ryan, apparently.
Because I'm pulling a Ryan. I had health anxiety. And I was like, wow, this is what Ryan goes through all the time. Sorry.
Hey, I've been pretty good about it lately. I've been keeping my anxieties under control.
Yeah, and that's good of you because, some of learning on campus is canceled for a few days this coming week because we've had a larger outbreak in middle school. But, hey, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. So anyway, I was like, oh, I have health anxiety. Look at that. I mean, it only lasted an hour. So,
oh, what bliss. Health anxiety only lasting an hour.
So I'm good. I'm good, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
You're good too. We're all healthy. We're all in a normal state of health or disrepair, whichever one. Disney Plus started showing very old seasons of The Amazing Race.
Oh, I was wondering which way it was going to go. The Amazing Race. Okay.
And that's a show that I have very much enjoyed over the years. After it became too much work to get it off the back of the trucks that are just dropping it on the road, I decided that I wasn't going to watch it anymore. It's just too annoying to watch because they don't really show it in Japan at all. I mean, I watched it when I lived in America, and then when I came to Japan, there were a few ways to get it through VPNs and stuff, but watching it off CBS's website back in the day, it was just horrible quality. It's like you can't even read the names on the bottom of the screen when they show them because it's so blurry, right? It's like, it's not worth it. I had found somebody who was very nicely posting things on YouTube the day they came out and then would suddenly disappear, a few days later. So if you got there in the right window, you could watch them right off of YouTube.
Disappear a few days later. Yeah, it called, they got a cease and desist.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But, hey, there was a few days where there was a window. It was nice. But yeah, these are the back of the trucks. That did end up stopping because it was a very nice pattern that the user would follow as he would up his username by one digit every time. Anyway. Yeah, but that stopped. And then I got sick and tired of looking for it more, too, because it's like, it's not worth it. It's, you know what? It's a TV show. It's not worth it, Ryan. So, yeah, the amount of stress I would have to go to find the next episode, it wasn't worth it. So I was like, I'm done watching this show now. So anyway, they started showing some old versions of this show on Disney Plus. And it's seasons 1 through 10 here in Japan, which is like 2000, something like that, to 2000, I think it's 2007. Which is hilarious because they win Palm Treo models. It's like, that's the smartphone of the time. And these guys who won, they're like, they're not techie. And the Palm Treos at the time, you have to be pretty techie to understand those things. They're pretty cool, give me that. But, anyway, we watched season 10 and it was enjoyable. And actually, what's hilarious is halfway through the season, I'm like, oh, I remember watching this season. I remember what happened. And these people, it's like, wow, it's been a wild time. So my wife was kind of getting into it. She wasn't as thrilled with the fact that the season was, like more than 15 years old, but she was enjoying it. And then she found out that season 33 is on now, and that one of the contestants on season 33 happens to be somebody who makes videos on YouTube that she's watched previously. She's just like, oh, wow, what's this? Look at this. So she got pretty excited about it. One of the times I went on to iTunes and they sold the next season for like $5. So I was like, well, I could pay $5 for a season of The Amazing Race. And this time I looked it up, and season 33, of course, it's nowhere in Japan. But hey, it was for sale on iTunes. Even though it's not finished, you buy the season pass thing, and they'll ship you the episodes as they come. It's not $5. It was like $20. But I was like, you know what? I think we're going to have fun watching this. Even now with my kids, too. Amazing Race is generally a kid-friendly show. As reality shows go, I would say it's probably one of the better ones because you get pushed off by your own mistakes, generally speaking. Very rarely do you get pushed out or voted out by somebody else, right? So there's a lot less hard feelings going around. Yeah, teams do get mad at each other sometimes, and even in season 10 that happened a bunch. But generally speaking, what kicks you out is your own mistakes or bad luck. But still, it's not really somebody else's fault. As reality shows go, I enjoy it for that. So I bought season 33, and we have been watching that pretty religiously. We have now caught up to where they are now airing. And one of the nice things is the couple that's on YouTube has been posting a YouTube video after every episode has come out. So we've been watching their backstory and their explanations of their own actions, which is pretty fun. And they've been doing pretty well, too. So it's kind of exciting. Season 33 started filming before COVID. They had 3 legs and then stopped filming because they were in Scotland on February 28 when everything came crashing down. They had to stop everything and sent all the teams home And then 19 months later, back in September of 2021, it seems like, they invited the same teams back again to continue the race. So quite interesting, the dynamic of that. And watching now to realize how they have worked hard to make the race safer. They still run around without masks on most of the time. You do see them wear masks when they go in to ask for directions. But, they've kind of created their own bubble, which is, still like a 50, 60 people bubble. So it's still pretty high, I would think. But still, they've made it as safe as they can, I guess. Quite interesting how they did that. So I am enjoying it. It's different than the normal Amazing Race, but it's still kind of fun.
I'm intrigued to see how they did that transfer after 19 months, because I'm just imagining how many contestants changed in those 19 months.
Not too many changed. There were some changes, and not everyone was able to return.
I'm also not talking necessarily about the people changing, but I'm talking about the people that this is the problem of grammar. It's not about the people being different people. It's about how has the 19 months of COVID changed them?
Yes, there is that too. Mm-hmm.
That's more of one of those interesting things, because it was them doing this race and then 19 months on hold and then they all come back. That's something that I think would be very interesting to see.
It is very interesting. So I have been enjoying this season so far, especially watching the production side of it. I remember even when first coming to Japan, I was thinking, it would be great to be a cameraman on The Amazing Race. I think it'd be super hard, but I think it would be a lot of fun to do that, because you get to go to all the places and you're watching it all through their eyes, and you don't have to do any of the challenges, but you watch it. In fact, I got to tell you, Ryan, I don't know if you know this, but I actually applied to The Amazing Race with some of the teachers at our school.
No, I did not know that.
Yes. Back in, I don't even remember what season. There was a season where it was like, hey, we'll make families race together. So instead of pairs of 2, it'll be a family of 4 racing. So I made a fake family, I'm making that in air quotes, where we took some of the teachers at our school and all applied together as a fake family, which was against the rules. It was completely no, I think it even said you had to all be blood related or related through marriage, something like that. But hey, we were going to try it anyway. Big deal. I'm sure we got thrown out right away, which is fine because they did not contact us again. But I applied with, now my wife, back then we were dating. I applied with the registrar at the time and the chemistry teacher at the time. He was a Colombian teacher. He was hilarious. I traveled with him to Korea with my wife just before I started dating her. This was like one of the trips that basically we started dating right after this. And, me and my wife are on time people, super punctual, precise. He is like the exact opposite. Super laid back, 9 o'clock, we'll get there, we're going to be at 9, we'll get there when we get there. Or no, we're like, the train is leaving, we need to run to get on the train. He's like, what? No. All right, so me and my wife are dragging, back then we were dating, but we were dragging him down to the tracks. We're getting on this train, anyway.
He sounds like my level of punctuality.
Yep. He was great. He was so funny. Sometimes you'll hear me say, cuddle, cattle, coddle. Did I say 3 different words? That was one thing he would say to me all the time. Cuddle, cattle, coddle. Did I say 3 different words? Just trying to get his vowels right. He was great. And according to the rules, too, everybody has to be American citizens, right? And in that group of 4 people, I was the only American citizen because the biology teacher was Colombian, my wife is South Korean, and the registrar is Canadian. So, yeah, we were definitely not all American citizens. But between us, we could speak a number of languages. Of course, not helped by me at all. But everyone else could speak more than one language. So one of the other teachers at our school applied with his wife and his brother and his brother's wife. They actually had to do something else. They submitted their video for application, and then I think they had to fill out a questionnaire or something like that after that. But I don't think it didn't go beyond that stage, which is too bad. I think they would have been great, more because they probably would have done well. So that's probably why they didn't get picked, because I think they probably would have done things fast and not talked a lot. So and just gotten things done because they would have just been good at it. Every once in a while, especially watching The Amazing Race, I keep practicing my "you're doing it wrong" line because that's what you have to say when you watch your partner do their tasks. You're doing it wrong. Just building up the tension and the anxiety.
Yeah, I know for a fact I would be awful at that show.
Oh, it's got to be so hard. It's got to be so hard. It's so easy to sit on the couch and like, oh, they should have done the other task, or, but we have so much more information than they do. So much more information than they do, right? So, yeah, it's got to be so hard.
I haven't watched like a reality show in a long time.
Well, and looking through the seasons now on iTunes, there are a lot of seasons I think I haven't seen. I must have stopped around season 20. Season 20 is the one that I purchased in iTunes a long time ago. I think I stopped after that. I don't think I bought another season after that. So seasons between 21 and 32, I have not seen.
Oh, just some light summer watching then.
Yeah, well, I don't think I want to buy them. If they sold them to me all in a set, that would be nice. I'll do that.
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to sell it to you in a set. They just won't discount the set.
Exactly. Or if Paramount Plus or whatever this annoying streaming thing they're trying to do comes to Japan, I might consider subscribing to it. But you know what? I don't think it's coming to Japan. So how am I going to get my Star Trek Discovery is what I really want to know. How am I going to get my Star Trek Discovery? Is Netflix really going to show it in March? I don't know. We'll have to find out.
This week...
You're going to talk to us about Disco Zoo?
Yeah, no. Definitely not. No, this week I want to tell you about the game that I've actually currently been playing because I am very much enjoying it, and I'm at a place in the game where I'm so close to beating it,
Ooh.
And it's annoying me that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to talk about this game. So the game that I've been playing lately is called Returnal.
Returnal, okay.
Returnal. Yes. The basic premise is you are a character named Celine. She is a space explorer, and the game opens with Celine flying close to this planet and ending up crashing on this planet. Her ship has been completely totaled, and so she goes to explore the planet that she's on, and she gets attacked by the creatures on this planet. So she ends up defending herself and continuing to explore, seeing what's out there, but inevitably she dies. Now, when she dies, she wakes up as her ship is crashing onto the planet once again. So, she realizes that she is stuck in a time loop and that every single time that she dies on this planet, she wakes up just as she's crashing on the planet. It is a roguelite 3D bullet hell kind of game. Now, the phrase bullet hell probably is one that not many people might know offhand, but it's basically the type of game where there are so many bullets on the screen, you're just dodging little bullets on a screen. The 2D version of this is the evolution of games like Galaga, where you would have your plane and then the enemy at the top of the screen, and it would be shooting down, and you'd have to dodge all the bullets while shooting the enemy. It's like that, except 3D and a whole lot more bullets. The game is going around this place, you're trying to explore, you're gaining power-ups, but every time that you die, you lose most of what you've collected. There are a few things you keep, not much, but you start from scratch all over again every time you die. There's little things that you carry along, your memories you carry along, though, and there are pieces of the story that you're trying to collect to figure out what's going on so you can solve the mystery and hopefully try to escape this loop. So I'm going to spoil the end of Act 1 for you because this is a 3-act game. The end of Act 1, you have beaten 3 very difficult bosses, and at the end of the 3rd one, you find the signal that you've been looking for, and you receive a alert from the home base for this explorer, and they come and rescue her. She then goes back home, back to Earth, lives out the rest of her life, and lives out her normal life, and when she dies a normal natural death, she wakes up back on this planet. She escaped the planet, but regardless of how she dies, she will always end up back on this planet. Mm-hmm. It's a fun game, really mysterious, really cool. There are some interesting bosses. One of the ones that I smile and laugh at, but I love it, is there's one boss who looks like a sea monster playing the organ, and the song that he's playing is a minor key version of Don't Fear the Reaper. Don't Fear the Reaper actually is used several times throughout the game as a reoccurring theme. So it's very interesting. And given that you are in a death loop kind of game where every time you die, you wake back up, Don't Fear the Reaper tends to work really well that way. Anyway.
But it needs more cowbell.
Because there is no cowbell in the organ version.
Yeah.
So I have gotten to the end of the game. I have beaten all of the bosses, and I have finished Act 2. Because Act 3 requires you to go back through all the worlds again, discover this one final piece of information you need, which I've done, and then, once you've done all that, then you need to beat the final boss one more time. The problem is, getting to the final boss is okay, but because everything is randomly generated each time you go on these runs, what kind of guns you get, what kind of equipment you get, changes each time. And so, let's just say the RNG has not been kind to me for the past 3 runs since I've gotten all this information. And each time you do one of these runs, if you're like going slowly and doing it carefully and getting all the things so that you go to the final boss fully powered up and ready to win, they can take anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. And so, because I have gotten very close 3 times and died 3 times after I've gotten all this information, I am so close to beating this game. But I have stumbled at the finish line so many times already. It is a load of fun, but it is also one of those games where you get aggravated, but you also can't help but go, all right, one more time, because it is that much fun. But yeah, I think the mystery of this game, the time loop thing, is just fantastic. I've been playing a lot of time loop games for some reason.
I like time loops in general.
Yeah, no, I just realized that the game that I was playing right before this was a game called Deathloop. No, actually, that wasn't right before this. Played a game in between. Anyway, that was one of the other newer games that I played, and that one has to do with a guy who wakes up on a beach in a mysterious island that repeats a single day. And just every day, everybody wakes up, and most people have forgotten that it's the same day. And so everybody still thinks that it's day 1 of their new life on this island, but 2 people know that it's definitely not day 1. You and the other person, and it turns into a assassin versus assassin. Anyway, I digress. Returnal, lots of fun. Like I said, it's a really good mystery kind of game where you're trying to piece together the story, trying to figure things out. The story, from what I have pieced together so far, is sad. It's sad, but it's still such a great game, and I have very much enjoyed it. And I am looking forward to finally beating it. My guess is, if I have a good run tomorrow, I can finally beat it.
The next time, right? The next time you can beat it.
Yeah, well, like I said, one good run of 2 hours, and I can probably do it. But I know me, and if I get really close again and stumble at the finish line, the problem is, the biggest temptation I have is to rush through the things that I've already beaten. And if you rush, you don't win. At least I don't. So today we have a fruit punch.
Fruit punch Mitsuya cider.
Yeah.
When I think fruit punch, I think high C. I don't know about you. Fruit punch, right? You remember that guy with the bowl walking around punching through walls because he was the fruit punch?
That was the Kool-Aid man.
Oh, it's the Kool-Aid man. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he ran through walls and went, oh, yeah.
Classic. That's right. High C was right. Ecto Cooler.
I thought that was Capri Sun.
No, there's another one. Oh, my goodness. But anyway, when I think fruit punch is like red in America anyway, right?
Yeah.
This is a pale yellow. So I have a feeling it's not quite the same thing.
Yeah. Well, this is specifically Mitsuya cider fruit punch.
Mitsuya cider being like the Sprite tasting drink in Japan.
I mean, it's cider.
Yeah.
I'm a little curious to see how it is. Mostly due to the fact that because fruit punch is so ambiguous, Everybody likes to define fruit punch in a different way.
Mm-hmm. At least they list the fruits right off the front here. You know, apple, pineapple, peach, and what is kankitsu? I thought I was going to be able to read all of them.
I do not know.
What is kankitsu? Okay, so kankitsu is a citrus. It is apple, pineapple, peach, and some kind of citrus fruit.
Some kind of citrus fruit.
Yeah, on the backside is pictured an orange, so maybe it's orange.
Possibly. Or it's at least a relative of the orange.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So 4 flavors, they're boasting of it. But, one of the benefits of this drink, it is 10% fruit juice, which is pretty high.
That might be one of the higher ones that we've had.
Excluding the ones that are pure fruit juice.
Yeah.
It is pretty high. Although I don't remember what the kiwi one was. That might have been pretty high too.
We don't talk about that one.
We don't talk about the kiwi drink. All right, let's try fruit punch, huh?
All right, let's see what it's like.
It smells more on the citrus side.
I am definitely smelling the pineapple, though.
Mm-hmm. And even the apple, too. It's got hints of that, too. It's not going to be the fruit punch I remember, but it's probably going to be good.
That's optimistic. Ooh.
It's definitely not the fruit punch I remember. It's strong on the pineapple. It's like tangy or something.
Okay, so have you ever been to one of those parties where somebody's like, oh, I'm going to make a fruit punch, and they just pour in a cider and then every single fruit juice they can find in their house? Sometimes they'll put little scoops of like sherbet or ice cream in it as well. That's what this tastes like. It tastes like somebody's fruit cocktail holiday hootenanny drink.
Well, I don't know, though. I think the pineapple's just too overbearing.
You've clearly not had the ones that I've had. Usually they're like that. Not just pineapple being overbearing, but like the flavors are not well balanced.
I think that's what it is. I mean, basically the flavors are not well balanced. The pineapple is too strong.
Mm-hmm.
There are some decent other flavors, but they're just overblown. And there's too many of the other flavors, I guess. Or, well, I mean, maybe it's just that it's not balanced well enough.
It feels like there's just too much going on.
I mean, this should be called pineapple soda with other things.
If it was just pineapple, that'd be one thing. Because it has the other ones, it has so many flavors in here, all of them fighting each other, that if it was just pineapple, I'd rate it higher. No, I can't get behind it.
Oh, it's disappointing. I had higher expectations.
Oh, I did not. I expected this. It's not great. It's really not great. All right, now time for the eternal question. Where does that land it? I'm leaning towards a 3, personally.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's definitely below passing.
It's below passing. I don't consider this as painful for me as spicy ginger ale.
Because that's a good one. I should have rated that at higher. I have had more spicy ginger ale since the episode. I like it even more. Definitely should have rated that higher.
It's not as painful for me as spicy ginger ale was, but I can't give it a 4, so for me it's got to be a 3.
Yep, I'm going to go with a 3 as well.
It's not good. All the flavors, they're all there, and they're all fighting each other.
I generally finish this, and I probably will finish this. All except for the Kiwi Mikachu, I did not finish that drink. I have finished all the other ones, and I probably will finish this, but it is not good. It's disappointing. I had higher expectations. I thought I was going to like this.
I'm telling you, enter these with 0 expectations, and you will not be disappointed.
That is sad. It's very disappointing. I was like, oh, good. It's Fruit Punch Day. This will be a good one.
That being said, maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised by the melon Kit Kats.
Yes, I have fairly low expectations for the melon Kit Kats. It might overcome them.
So this is melon Kit Kat. I'll tell you what I'm expecting. I'm expecting the flavor that is the same flavor that you would find in a really melon bread. Like, you know how you have melon bread and then you have melon bread that tries to really emphasize the flavor of melon in the bread? I'm thinking that it's probably going to be the latter type of flavor, where it really tries to emphasize the flavor of melon.
I was wondering if it might be similar to a melon soda kind of melon.
I'm thinking it's going to be more melon bread than melon soda.
I like melon bread in general, so.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of melon bread.
So let's see. It is neon orange, or I guess maybe pastel orange.
Yeah, it's a pastel orange. It's just very bright. It smells like melon.
Well, yeah. Not bad, too. You know, when smelling it, I thought the taste was going to be overbearing.
Mm-hmm.
But while eating it, I don't believe it is. I believe it's just enough of a hint. I think you're probably right. It is more like the melon bread.
Yeah, they were aiming for melon bread flavor, not melon soda flavor. And guess what? I think I like it. It's not life-changing. It's not like mind-numbingly great like some of our other really good ones. I also like it because we've had a lot lately that have been very bland flavors. Not bland, but very almost
Common.
unoffensive. And this one really tries to be different, and I like it for it.
Yeah, I would say it's a risky flavor, right? But I think they succeed. I think I'm going to go with a 6.
Yeah, definitely a 6. If we were doing decimals, I'd say 6.5.
We're not going to do decimals.
One of these days, I'll get you to agree to give me a decimal.
No. We have a 10-point scale, Ryan.
Yep.
We don't need to make it 100 points.
6.54.
Or 1,000 points.
You know, I want to be exact. This is a science here.
Our taste tests are a science.
Yeah, that's definitely a 6.
It's good. It was surprising. Maybe my expectations were low enough that it could surprise me. I definitely thought the evening was going to go the other way. I definitely thought the drink would be good and the Kit Kats would be bad. But hey, there you go. I did not expect that today. All right, let's do pick sharp things.
Pick sharp thing.
Or should we do sharp stories? What do we call it? Sharp stories.
Sure,
Is that
sharp
good?
story. Apparently, I don't know how to talk. But yes, Nate, the movie I had you watch this time, it involved some, shall I say, antics involving knives.
Well, axes.
Well, axes and knives. I was specifically thinking of one scene with knives.
Yes, there are scenes with knives. The movie deals more with other stuff than that, but still.
But when you saw the movie, you were like, what can we talk about that would relate well to the movie? You presented the idea of telling stories that involve sharp objects.
Mm-hmm.
And I was intrigued enough to say, yeah, let's try that. So, since this was your idea, why don't you kick off this hot mess of a topic?
Sure. I will start with my semi-gory one first and then get to the other one later. But because I said to you sharp objects, the thing that came to my mind was the time that I got cut badly. Although not terribly. I guess it's not bad, but I did cut my finger in one of those paper cut things. We have one at our school now, and we had one when I was growing up. A slicer kind where it's hinged on the back end and you pull the bar down and it slices the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had one of those. It was a nice paper cutter. It cut very nicely. But one time, I definitely did not have my fingers back far enough. And of course, back when I was growing up, there was no guides, no like safety things. Like, why would you have that? They get in the way. They get in the way now. I get really frustrated with them, actually.
Even after you have done this before.
Even after I've done this before. But yep, I sliced my fingers in the paper cutter. And I sliced my middle finger. I sliced a very small section off of it, so it actually came off. So if you look at my left finger, it's not quite round anymore. There's actually a slight flat spot now where I sliced part off and it just grew back. And I sliced my index finger, but because the nail's right there, it didn't go all the way through. It just stopped right on the nail. So I think like half the nail fell off and then grew back. And now there is a dead spot in the growth area there. So now whenever it grows up, it splits right on that dead spot. So very annoying, actually. So I keep that finger clipped short a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, if you look at my fingers now, you really can't tell. I mean, if you're looking for the flat spot, you'll see it in my middle finger. But everything healed wonderfully.
That's good.
I was little enough that, everything just healed. But yeah, that was a bit scary. And now I'm always very careful about where I put my fingers on a paper cutter. But, a small section of my middle finger is now missing. Very small section, but it bled pretty well. And I think the scariest was when half the fingernail died and fell off and then grew back. That was probably the scariest part, but everything else good now. So there you go. That's my sharp object tale number 1, Ryan.
Oh, ouch.
That's the one you wanted to hear first, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm normally pretty careful with sharp objects.
Mm-hmm.
I tend not to injure myself with them.
Well, that's why I've only got like one story about the injury. Me neither.
I think the closest I come to like genuinely like injuring myself with a sharp object like that was when I was peeling potatoes. There was one point where I wasn't watching what I was doing and actually ended up peeling the potato and then also peeling, quarter of an inch off my thumb.
Oof. Mm-hmm.
But nowhere near deep enough to kill that spot. It just grew back eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's as bad as I get with blades, which is crazy considering this might be a little bit of an insight into the type of person I was and or am. But growing up, once I got to a certain age, I had a small knife, sword, blade collection that I just ended up with from a little bit of everywhere. I had a knife that I bought while I was in Spain on my mission trip. I had a sword that my roommate in college gave me. I ended up with a machete from I don't remember where. I had a hatchet sat in a drawer for ages. I had a whole bunch of things. So I had all these things. I will say that when I left for Japan, I left it in the most secure of all locations, my parents' basement. You know, the place where all parents love for their children to leave stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I am correct, I believe that my parents have gotten rid of all my knives and all my swords since I have been in Japan.
Good for them.
I think that was the correct decision. I'll be honest, none of them were that great. I mean, like I said, they were mostly all gifts that I had gotten one place or another and a couple that I had picked up. Nothing that is above like what belongs on like a wall hanger sort of situation. That's about as high quality as I ever had. Yeah, that's a little insight into me and sharp objects.
My other one is I'm going to describe a tool that I don't think I've ever gotten to see the knives inside of it, but I definitely knew they were sharp, and that is the baler that I used to stand behind when I worked at my uncle's farm. So it's a very cool device. The hay would get picked up, and then it would go through the baler, get chopped on both sides, and come out the back with string tied around it, and then I would stack it in the wagon that I was standing on. You know, there was knives to cut the hay, there was knives to cut the string, there was got to be a whole bunch of knives in that thing. I always wondered, how did they rethread the twine when it ran out? Like, how close did they get to the knife on that one? I was always curious. I was like, I'm glad that I'd never had to do that, and I'm glad I never had to open it up to find out how the hay was cut too, because that looked pretty scary as well. But yeah, the baler was quite an interesting device. I never got to take it apart or see inside of it too much, but I'm sure it had lots of stuff. And then, of course, the bales that came out the back end that I would pick up with the twine had lots of sharp, pokey things now because they had just been sliced with knives. So when you're pushing the hay into place, you could get your hand pricked. I mean, never a lot, but by the end of the day, you're feeling a little raw because you're pushing the hay around. And of course, I didn't do it often enough to build up really big calluses like my cousins, but that was quite an interesting machine. I would have liked to have seen the inside of it more sometime. It was great how it just scooped up the hay, and then all of a sudden you'd get these cubes of hay out the back end. Like, wow, that's, pretty ingenious device. I'm glad I didn't have to do it by hand, that's for sure. It was so nice, tightly packed too. Anyway, it was a wonderful device.
I was very intrigued when you started talking about working at your uncle's farm, because my second story actually also involves a workplace. So I've told you I've had a lot of really random jobs. One of them was when I worked in a boiler room. It was attached to my college, and the sole rule there was don't sleep. Because I worked the night shift. And the night shift at the boiler room was very simple. You had to read gauges once an hour record all the numbers and whatnot. And so we were told to keep busy with tasks that were related to the boiler room. We were told specifically, don't do your homework here. This is not a place to do your homework, so we want you to take care of boiler room business. Asking a bunch of college students to do that, it seems a little strange to me, especially considering the boiler room business was kind of pointless. But that's neither here nor there. So, what was this boiler room business that they asked us to do? Well, they said there were a lot of things for us to do. We could clean, we could do a bunch of odd jobs, but the one that I always did, because there was never a lack, was they had this big barrel, huge barrel, and it was just filled with discarded wire. And we were told, if you have nothing else to do, you can always take that wire and strip the wire.
Just strip all the insulation off, huh?
Just strip all the insulation off that wire. Now, there are tools designed to strip insulation off of wires. Do you think that we were given those tools?
Really? You were given toothbrushes to clean the floor, huh?
We were given a box cutter. So, I sat there for every single shift, basically, pulled out a whole heap of wire and just stripped it shift after shift after shift, and just stripped so much wire that at one point I decided that I was going to keep myself entertained and actually ended up building a snowman out of all of the wire that I had done. I had just started winding it up into a small ball. The small ball got larger and then larger and then larger, and then I ended up making a snowman. A decent-sized one at that. I was very happy with that snowman. They eventually did sell it because that's what they were doing, was selling the copper wire.
They didn't sell it as a snowman, though. They sold it as wire.
They sold it as wire, which is really sad because I was very proud of that snowman. But yeah, we were given a box cutter and wire and just told to strip all the insulation off this wire. Now, I held this job for at least 2 years while I was in college. After doing this 2 years off and on, I got really good at stripping wire. I would lay the box cutter on my leg and actually just run the wire and trap the wire between my leg and the knife, and it would take care of all that. The downside to that is I might have torn up at least 2 or 3 pairs of jeans that way. But yeah, it was a very interesting situation, and I will never understand why we couldn't just do homework.
Would have kept you awake, probably, too.
Which is really sad, considering I do know that other people who worked that job definitely just went to the back room and slept. So Nate, this time, because I've had you read a lot of books lately, I thought, I think let's go with something a little bit more lighthearted. So I had you watch a movie.
Which is kind of funny because I probably would have read a book faster.
Really?
This time, I think. It's hard to sit down to actually watch something.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Yeah, my podcasts have really been slowing down. I've been doing a lot more books.
Gotcha. So I had you watch a movie that I first watched a long time ago. So it originally came out in 2004. I would have been in high school when this originally came out. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's always been a bit of a classic comedy movie for me. And so I thought, you know what? I want to have Nate watch something a little bit sillier, a little bit more funny. So I said, Nate, you're going to watch Kung Fu Hustle. So that is what I had Nate watch this time.
Yep, it is out of our ordinary.
Well, okay. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it. I will say that in writing a summary of this movie, I realized something. The plot almost doesn't matter. The set pieces, the action sequences, the silliness, the slapstick comedy, that's the key of this movie, more than necessarily the plot, because the plot is loose. But before we get into all of that and hearing what Nate has to say about this movie. I would like to, as always, say that if you have not seen the movie before, you should turn off the podcast, go and watch the movie, and come back and rejoin us when you've seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have seen it and it's just been a long time, I'll give you a bit of a refresher. But like I said, the plot is not as integral in this one. Kung Fu Hustle is a comedy movie both directed and starring Stephen Chow. At the beginning of the movie, the Axe Gang has taken over large areas of a city, and the only places that seem to be left alone are the poorest districts, where the gangs can't really hope to profit, so it's not really worth their time. One such place is Pigsty Alley. One day, Singh, the character played by Stephen Chow, decides to impersonate an Axe Gang member to blackmail the local residents into giving him some cash. When this doesn't work so well, he sets off a firecracker in a bluff to convince the town that he's calling for reinforcements. When he does this, however, it explodes on the head of a real Axe Gang member. This causes an escalation, which ends up with a confrontation between the residents and the Axe Gang. When the gang tries to kill the residents, three people who live in Pigsty Alley, step forward to defend the town. A day laborer, a noodle shop owner, and a tailor. All of them former kung fu masters. They fight off the gang, and then they defend the town. The Axe Gang, however, don't take kindly to this insult. They call the best killers that money can buy, and in the meantime, Singh tries to get revenge himself. He tries to kill the landlady. And this also goes very poorly for him. The Axe Gang hired a pair of killers who are also musicians. As the three kung fu masters, the tailor, the noodle shop owner, and the day laborer, as they all are packing up and leaving Pigsty Alley, they are attacked, overpowered, and killed by the musicians/killers. It is at this moment that the landlord and the landlady can't stand anymore, and they break their oath not to fight anymore. Being true masters of kung fu themselves, they beat the musicians and send them running. After this, the Axe Gang have Singh break a man called the Beast out of an insane asylum. He was there because apparently he had gone crazy by being too obsessed with kung fu and killing people while looking for a decent opponent. After he is broken out of the insane asylum, a fight breaks out between him and the landlords, who have come to deal with the Axe Gang. This ends with the Beast pulling a trick and stabbing the landlords. Singh then hits the Beast, who drops his guard on the landlords as he pummels Singh into the floor. Afterwards, the landlords rescue Singh, who had just been beaten by the Beast. But when the Beast beats Singh, it apparently cleared his ki flow, which allowed his true nature as a natural kung fu master to be unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, he also remembered and thought back to his childhood, studying the Buddhist hand kung fu, and fights the Beast into submission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's a bit of a zany story because all these things happening, but the story almost doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, there it is. Like, shall we start there? Like, how does his beating make him the kung fu master? Does it matter? It happens so that there can be more fights before the end of the movie.
Well, yes, but also the thing that they had alluded to throughout the movie several times is that there is such thing as a natural-born kung fu master.
Mm-hmm.
And it's alluded to several times in the movie, but they're one in a million.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it deals with bone structure and one's ki.
Yeah. Which the beggar can sniff out, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? The beggar sniffing these kids out.
Yeah.
Yet scamming them.
And yet scamming them. Not only that, but I mean, him being somewhat special is also alluded to when, like, he punches the stoplight fixture.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And heals himself by, like, beating up on that because he had just been bitten by a snake and stabbed 3 times. So all this stuff had been alluded to. But again, why does this happen? Because of the power of plot. The plot needed it to happen.
I mean, I did enjoy it as a comedy movie. It was definitely pretty funny. yes, trying to follow the plot or anything like that. I mean, there were some good twists that, like, the landlord, while yet being super sleazy,
Oh, super sleazy.
does turn out to be helpful. Let me say it that way. He doesn't redeem himself, but he turns out to be helpful.
I will say, so many of the characters in this movie are not good people.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, for me, the reason why I had you watch this was not for the plot.
Mm-hmm.
That is why I kept saying to you, before you watch this, I want to emphasize for you that this is a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you went in thinking and expecting that.
I did.
How did you feel about it in general, though?
I thought it was funny. I think it's not going to be a favorite movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was enjoyable. I mean, I tried to watch it in one sitting, but I started falling asleep in the middle. Now, granted, it was late. I mean, it's not just the movie's fault. But I was hoping to finish the movie in one sitting, but I started falling asleep during the first evening because the fight scenes were longer for me personally. I mean, I fell asleep in the fight scene with the guys with the koto thing.
Yeah.
It had good points in it. It just kept going and going and going, I felt like. Because I rewound to watch it again the second time because I was like, wait, I fell asleep somewhere in here. Let me just watch this again. But I did think it was fun. So actually, I fell asleep before the Beast got let out of prison the first time too. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't see that happening. I mean, I thought it was funny. I thought it was good. I thought there was many good jokes, that's for sure. I just don't think it'll be a favorite. I mean, I definitely enjoyed that they did try to keep the fights as interesting as possible. I just don't think it always kept my attention.
Now, I'm going to ask one simple question here because it might influence a lot, but how much Kung Fu have you watched? Like, how many Kung Fu movies have you...
Not much.
Okay, that...
Yeah, not much.
Because this definitely plays off of tropes, and this kind of goes with the understanding that you might watch basically Kung Fu movies and movies like this.
I mean, I was wondering, after having watching Shang-Chi a few months ago, the guy with the rings, I'm sure, is kind of a play off of that somehow.
That is a fighting style.
With the rings?
Yeah.
On their arms? Okay. I mean, those rings don't give him powers.
No, those rings do not give him powers. He uses them as basically...
defensive.
Yeah.
One of the things I enjoyed about it was the community. I thought in many ways it almost felt like the set of a play where things were going to happen, but it didn't feel bad that way. It just felt like, oh, this is a great area for all of the action to take place. It's like we were dancing around it. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of fun, actually, in some ways.
It is a really good set piece where it just has that open feel, that central ground that really works well, and they can keep coming back to that same place. And I think that they probably did that also for budget reasons. But the reason why I was asking about how many Kung Fu movies have you watched and things like that is Stephen Chow movies tend to... He has a couple of movies that are like this, and they tend to be over the top and ridiculous, but they go with that kind of feel of movies like this. And I really enjoy them. I really like them. But if you haven't watched a lot of Kung Fu movies, then maybe I should have started with a different one of his movies. In fact, probably the one I should have started you on is Shaolin Soccer.
I did see that he had directed that one too.
Because Shaolin Soccer is this guy who is trying to make money and finds a family of former Shaolin Kung Fu students and convinces them all to play soccer. And so they end up adding Kung Fu into soccer, and same over-the-top ridiculous fight sequences, but done with, instead of fighting, with soccer. Like, same slapstick sort of comedy. So it might have been a better fit for you.
Yeah, well, this was fun.
That's the thing, is it's designed to be fun. It's designed to be funny. It's designed to be comedy.
You say that there's not much plot, which I generally agree with. But I mean, I did kind of even like, he had a good storyline. He had I was trying to be a hero. I failed as a child. I'm kind of giving up on that. But I mean, I can't do the terrible things the gangs are asking me. I failed at that, but I'll still talk big and then die. I didn't quite understand, again, because it's low on plot, but I don't quite understand why he flipped sides. Was it just out of loyalty because they helped save him? Was it something else?
How I read that was he was starting to see what he was becoming, especially in regards to the girl with the lollipop. because this is a girl he had defended as a young boy, and because of that, he was seeing what he was becoming, and he was being the bully.
Right, rejecting that ideal of himself.
And he was hating that idea, and so I think it was just, he was so conflicted. That's why he sent his friend away, that's why he did all these things. The conflict in him ended up just causing him to act.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I read that situation, that it was more dependent on his reaction to, this is not the person who I really wanted to become. That was how I read it, based on how he was acting and what was happening in the plot. I do think that while I say that the movie is not plot heavy, I do think that they do a lot with subtext, where they won't say something, but they allude to things a lot. Like you said, the backstory is really, it's good. It's just, they don't explain a whole lot. I think it's the best way to put it.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it.
That's the thing, is I understand that it's not going to be a favorite of yours, but for me, this movie is pure comedy. When I am watching this movie, I am not watching it to think. I am watching it because I want to see some set pieces and some action that is a mix of slapstick comedy, Looney Tunes style action, and almost Dragon Ball Z style fights.
And some good jokes in there too. I mean, actually, what I was going to say next is that it does span a pretty good spectrum of comedy. It's got some slapstick, it's got some good jokes, it's got some situational humor.
Oh, yeah.
It goes around.
Like I said, the Looney Tunes style running was hilarious for me. The number of times that Singh got stabbed in that one scene.
Mm-hmm. With the knives.
Where he tries to throw a knife and it bounces off of the ceiling and hits him. And then his friend tries to throw the knife and hits him. And then the third time, he tells his friend to get closer, and he ends up stabbing him and then throwing the handle.
Mm-hmm.
It's things like that. I understand that it not being your favorite, but for me, I love this movie simply because it's one of those movies when I want to just laugh. Perhaps it is because it lives in my mind with nostalgia, because this is almost culty classic kind of for me. It's got its places where it's a little rough around the edges. For me, again, it's just about pure silly comedy.
And it succeeds there.
And that's all I ask for.
Alrighty, Ryan. I have something good for you next time.
Okay, what do you have for me?
I'm throwing a curveball. I'm going to have you read 2 books. It's the first 2 books in a series, but I reread these books at the beginning of this year. And I was debating if I should have you read one or the other, or have you read a second one another time. And a second one another time probably would have been a good option too, but I think I'm going to have you read both of them and then we'll just move on. Because they are kind of different, and I like them both for different reasons.
And you really want me to have absolutely no free time.
Well, they're 8 hours each, so it's 16 hours. It's a lot shorter than a Brandon Sanderson book.
There's a lot of things that are a lot shorter than a Brandon Sanderson book.
So I'm going to have you read City of Ember and The People of Sparks. And it's the first 2 books in the People of Ember series. I don't actually know what it's called, but Ember. Maybe it's just called Ember series. But it is a very, very interesting book, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
For very different reasons. So I am very excited to see what you think of them also. The second book is a bit political. Clear parallels can be drawn between our political status of the world. So I think you will probably like that one. I think you will like it.
Good. I'm looking forward to seeing how it is, because I have not read these before.
If anything, I think you'll think it's too blatant. But anyway, we'll see how that goes.
Too heavy-handed?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'll withhold my judgment until I've finished them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We do hope that you found something nice about this hill that we were willing to die on, and we appreciate all of our listeners coming along on this journey with us. And if you ever thought to yourself, hey, I really like these guys and wish that I could help keep them doing what they're doing and wish there was some way I could support them, know that you can. Visit myhilldadieon.com/members for more details. But to give you a bit of a glance into what being a member means, Being a member allows you to have access to the Not My Hill Members Only podcast, where we talk about things that they're probably somebody else's hill to die on. They're not our hill to die on. I mean, there are things about them that are lovely, but they're not for us. We have strong feelings about them nonetheless. So in addition to having access to the Not My Hill Members Only podcast, you can also suggest ideas for the Members Suggestion podcast, where you can suggest a topic for us, and we will read or watch or partake of that media and tell all of our listeners what we thought of the member-suggested topic. But know that the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit at the subreddit My Hill to Die On, or contacting us through Twitter at My Hill to Die On. Or you can reach us by email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. Finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also named, stay with me now folks, My Hill to Die On.
I did buy a new drink today that I will bring you. It is Ume Mitsuya cider.
Ume
Mitsuya cider, and it was 68 yen, which is super cheap. So
it's going to taste pretty cheap.
It's going to be good podcast material.
Well, Ume, I like Ume normally.
Okay. You might like it. Anyway, that'll be later.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Ume in a drink sounds rough.
You made it through with no mistakes on that last part, Ryan.
Hey, you know what? You say it enough times. Actually, I'll tell you exactly the thing that I realized that helps me get through it. There are certain places where changing my intonation makes it feel unique enough that I don't feel like I'm listing things. When I feel like I'm listing things, that's when I stumble. So if I break it up enough into separate ideas, then I can make it through without going... That being said, this will all fall apart the more tired I get.
Yeah, exactly. You must not be tired enough today. That's what I was going to say.
I said that I had thrown out my shoulder somehow. I am going to the chiropractor tomorrow.
Oh, good.
My arm normally feels okay until I have to lift my arm into a certain position, and so I know it's something with that arm. Unfortunately, I realized I put my left arm specifically in that position a lot. My left arm is the arm that I use to swing my backpack onto my back.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do the same motion every day for like 4 years, and then suddenly that motion becomes painful, you're like, oh, there's something wrong here. But yeah, I am reasonably sure that I just threw my arm out. I think it was a mix of I slept on it weird a couple of nights and then went to the gym and tried to push myself further than I probably should have.
Mm.
So yes, I'm an old man whose body is falling apart.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.